launch it and partner with you guys. So, all right, let me, and we got a good group here, and I really, at the end, I have some interesting stuff I want to share that I think will reward you guys as early adopters for jumping in and being here. But if nothing else, even what I'm getting ready to go through is going to be incredibly valuable for you. So let me just, okay. All right. So Megan, I do need you to allow me to share my screen. Disable.
Okay.
Or Kate.
Just going to do just a minute here. I'm going to add a little note here into the chat. Let's see. Okay. Just a reminder to everybody, we're going to go into the program here. I do need to have you assure that you are muted for the duration. We will slap you back into mute if we have to. All righty. Okay, David, let's see here. Oops.
Okay. I could definitely just talk. Okay, there we go. Perfect. All right, let's share my screen here. Excellent.
Always have to have a little active conversation as we go through it all, right?
Right. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yeah.
Nobody can respond to Kate and Megan. You just have to say yes. Everybody can give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up.
Yeah.
So like I was saying, that I'm really excited about this program. It's the first time we've really done something like this. It's actually the first one of the programs we're doing is a certification. It's the first time we've actually done that. So I'm very excited to do that with you guys with Luxury Real Estate. And just kudos to Megan and Kate. They've been incredible partners so far. So I'm really excited. Just quickly to walk you guys through what I'm going to cover. I'm going to give you guys a quick introduction and background on myself. I think that's obviously helpful since a lot of the content and things we're going to be doing come from me and the programs we're launching. I want to talk about how you can make the shift. We call it the wealth quotient shift. I'm going to talk a little bit about what I've seen from my experience to be the three biggest mistakes that people make when they're prospecting the high net worth and ultra high net worth market. I think that'll be very helpful for you from a mindset perspective. I'm going to talk about the programs that we're launching. There's two in particular. One's we're calling it the High Net Worth Introductory Course. And then the second one is we're calling the Ultra High Net Worth Mastermind Certification Program. They both have access to a content library that I'm going to walk you guys through. The difference is that the Ultra High Net Worth Mastermind Certification has a monthly coaching call that you attend and that we record and becomes part of that content as well. And then I'm gonna have two case studies specifically within the luxury real estate space. So I'll send you off with something helpful and concrete. Quick on my background, if you didn't know, I started a company back in 2010 called WealthX. WealthX is today the preeminent data set on the ultra affluent in the world. We built it manually. My co-founder was at Forbes. We started the company. The reason it's important is because in my role at this company, I got to sit with, in WealthQuotient, we have the same type of clients. I got to spend hours of time with the top CEOs across financial services, luxury, nonprofit, and higher education, anyone that was trying to engage the high net worth market and ultra high net worth or billionaires. And so I got to have these amazing conversations, and it gave me really unique optics and perspective across them and the top brands in the world to say, what were they doing wrong? What were the mistakes they were making, and kind of trying to aggregate those into 2 or 3 buckets across all these amazing companies. And what were they doing right? And so it was really unique perspective for me. We were fortunate in that we sold the company to a private equity fund. I left and started WealthQuotient. WealthX was more data. WealthQuotient's really about coaching and workflow and skills and habits that you can inculcate. The clients that we worked with at WealthX and WealthQuotient are the top brands in the world. They're the private jet manufacturers, they're the private banks, they're the biggest nonprofits in the world. And so one of the exciting opportunities, a majority of what we do is with these type of organizations globally today. And so the unique aspect of this type of program that we're launching with luxury real estate is that we're kind of harnessing and distilling all this amazing content, practices, and things that we would give to a VistaJet or to a Gulfstream, for example, and we're bringing it to you, or to a Tiffany or someone. So these are the same, the content you're going through is the same content that the top brands in the world have their professional salespeople go through, but we're giving you access to it, and so that's really exciting. And I know that's why Megan and Kate are really excited. When I was leaving WealthX, a lot of my clients came to me and said, David, we love the data, but how do we actually get in front of a high net worth or ultra high net worth person, right? How do you do that? And my new mantra became data without action is actually a distraction. Unless you have a way to action it, or you have workflow, and we saw so many people get data fatigue. And so everyone talks about data, but at the end of the day, and you guys, everyone on this call knows it, it's a relationship business, and referrals are the most important thing. And so that's really the core of what we're going to talk about and what all of our content is about. This chart here that you see is kind of, we call it a philosophical architecture, or worldview. The three bottom boxes there are the top three mistakes that I witnessed the top brands and sales professionals in the world typically make. And they're really the foundation of everything we're trying to do, because we're starting from those challenges, or I call them prospecting pathologies, right? And the first is what we call hope marketing, or being reactive and ad hoc. So what does that really mean? What it means is that everybody on this call, if I said, what's the number one source of new clients for you, or one of your top sources? Referrals are obviously one of the key ways, but most people don't have a proactive strategy. They're reactive about it. And so I call that hope marketing, right? And so the question is, how can you be more proactive about referrals? And so hope marketing is knowing that referrals are absolutely critical, but not doing anything about it, or being reactive. And even in some cases saying, well, David, I don't need to be proactive. I just serve my clients well, and that referrals come in. And that works well until the market changes, or they send you the wrong person, or you're not in control, right? And so in the absence of a proactive strategy to drive and be more systematic about referrals, most people tend to default to what we call an outward in approach. An outward in approach is a list. Think of a list, like a Crane's list of the wealthiest people, or reading the local paper in your region or area, and finding someone that sold their business or had a liquidity event and trying to get to them. In the banking industry, they call that money in motion, right? And so the challenge with this kind of outward in approach, and the sign that you're making that mistake, is that you ask this question, well, how do I get in front of them? If you have to ask the question, well, how do I get in front of them? It means you're starting from that place. Not only is we think it's the wrong question, it's an indicator that you've started in the wrong place, right? The opposite of outward in is inward out. An inward out approach is focusing on your key relationships and driving referrals through their networks, and optimizing and activating that in a proactive, systematic way. And that's what our whole methodology is about. The third is more of a tactical mistake. And most financial advisors, luxury brands, salespeople, whether you're selling a Gulfstream jet, trying to raise money for a nonprofit, or higher ed dealing with an alumni, or a professional luxury real estate sales professional like yourselves, this is a very typical scenario. I mean, you can plug and play. And in this case, I call it the proverbial golf game. Chimay beer at the golf club, or Budweiser, whatever your choice is, and then the proverbial, hey, we did really well for you. We did well in your portfolio. You had a great, I really enjoyed the experience, and you did too, selling the house, or whatever it may be. I mean, you can fill in the blank in terms of asset management, private jet, it doesn't matter. But this question, is there anyone you think might be interested in blank, and fill in the blank, that you think I should speak with, leads to what we call the black hole of referrals. And the response that you typically get from that is, let me think about it and I'll get back to you, right? This is par for the course. And so those are the three fundamental mistakes that everyone typically makes, right? One of the reasons why we spend a lot of time on this is because before you can change the way you act, you have to change the way that you feel. And the way you change the way you feel is by change the way you think. We all hear that mindsets are important, but they are critical. And so unless you really have the right mindset and understanding these things and laying that foundation, that soil, it's very hard to grow the right habits and the right strategy if you don't take these into account, right? So referrals are the most effective way to grow. The high net worth and ultra high net worth group really sees the world. There's two lenses that are primary for them. One is their relational networks, which is why referrals are so important, because it's how they qualify people. And the other is their passions, hobbies, and interests. It's what they care about. And so we took all those things and experience that we had and said, gosh, if we were going to address this and drive that and take that into account, how could we build a methodology that could scale, standardize, measure proactive referrals? And that's what the WealthQuotient methodology is. It's a 5-step methodology. I'm going to give you guys a quick overview today of that. And you can also, in your head, as I go through it, it's a best practice. This is the best way to engage this audience. And we're driving two outcomes in this process. We're accelerating access to qualified prospects. So we're building a broad portfolio and pipeline of these relationships. And then once we get there, we're unlocking chemistry and trust in a very specific way by asking great questions. So that's the broad overview of the backdrop and the philosophical kind of underpinnings of what we're doing. We all know that referrals are important. I mean, sometimes I feel like referrals are like the rain. It's like we all talk about it, but no one does anything about it, right? It's like the weather. But the data shows something very interesting, right? And the reason I say this is because I've coached some top performers across different firms, and one of the things that people do, because we're all really active salespeople and we want to win and we want to get out there, is you think about a prospect that you have, and imagine that you're at a cocktail party. If you approach that person directly, you create a probability of success. If you take that same exact person that you want to build a relationship with, that you would like to have as a client, and you go in, instead of going to them directly, you go in through a referral, you increase your probability by 400 to 500%. The other way to think about that is by going directly to them, you deposition yourself. And from a probability standpoint, you lower yourself by 400 to 500% of getting that person as a client. I mean, we all know referrals are important, but to hear and see it from this data perspective, I think illuminates it in a new way. Not only does it increase your probability by 400 to 500%, those prospects that come in through referrals they're the most loyal and they spend the most. So if you step back and say, as I build my business over the next 5 to 10 years, and I'm trying to prioritize my time, because I know everyone on this call, time is the most important asset that you have. Where should you be focusing your time? Where are you going to get the highest ROI from? Not only intuitively, but from a mathematical standpoint, from a lead generation standpoint. And the answer is referrals, right? So we taking all that into account, the WealthQuotient kind of core engine is a 5-step methodology. And I'm just going to summarize it for you right here. And this is the foundational core for everything that we do. All the content that we have online revolves around these 5 steps. All the coaching that we do revolves around these 5 steps. So everything revolves around and emanates from these 5 steps. The first is you have to really understand it and have a process for identifying who are those top referral sources. In our vernacular, we call them a hub, because if you think about a hub and a spoke, right? And we walk you through how to do that. It actually is not rocket science. None of this is rocket science. It's just applying it, and driving the right behaviors. And so we walk you through how to do that. We have a tool we call it a hub filter, where we say, we literally, in the online university, we show you how to, there's a tool where you write the name in and you have a checkbox and you say, does it do these things? If so, then that person makes a good referral source. If they don't, they're not. And so, for example, a lot of people oftentimes say, well, I know this accountant or attorney, and they advise all these family offices in Beverly Hills, or they advise a lot of wealthy people. And the answer is, you should really be cultivating relationships with people like that. But in this process, it won't work because those are private relationships. You can't go ask them and avoid that generic open-ended referral request, right? So there's things like that that we go through, FAQs, case studies, mistakes, and so forth. The second then is, okay, great. So now I've gone through my book of business, I've gone through my clients, I've gone through my relation network, and I've identified these people that are going to be the foundation of this whole process. How do I then go, what are some best practices and research tips for going and trying to identify people they're connected to? What I can go to their bio page and look on the board of directors of the nonprofit they're on, but we walk you through a very systematic process for doing that. And that part of our course is actually taught by the former head of prospect research from American universities. If you didn't know, the top people in the world at prospect research and building profiles in this kind of work are really in the university and higher education space. They're incredible at that. And so, and then once you've actually identified some specific individuals you're going to ask for the referral request, because this whole thing revolves around this key principle. Do not ask for the open-ended generic referral request. It will short circuit the process, and it puts too much pressure on your hub, on your referral source, right? So you go in asking for a specific referral request. There's a way to do that. There's a right process and tool. And so each one of these steps has its own course and submodules with FAQs and mistakes to avoid, and the tools to do that. And once you've gotten that introduction, once that referral source has done that for you, and there's lots of ways to do it, right and wrong, and things to avoid and things to learn there. Then how do you gather information on that prospect? And the point of this in step 4 is gathering information. We're really focused on gathering information about the passions, hobbies, and interests of this individual, so that in step 5, which we call be bespoke, in that step, we're really focusing on building a skill set around asking great questions. We're focused on not selling in that meeting with a prospect. We're focused on asking questions about what matters to them most and their passions, hobbies, and interests. And so, the name of our firm is WealthQuotient. It's really designed. We used it as a way to categorize how do you monetize or proactively engage when we call it your wealth graph. Your wealth graph are all the relationships and referrals that revolve around the social capital that you've built with your clients, right? Your wealth graph is not how many wealthy people you're connected to. Your wealth graph is how many prospects are connected to your relationships, because those are your future clients, right? And your wealth quotient was how do you monetize that? And so we're all about implementing and measuring the right behaviors. I swim at Wheaton College in Chicago, and my coach used to say all the time, practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. So it's about the right behaviors and about the right ways and the right tools. So now, what would it look like? What if you've gone through our process and you've really adapted the mindset, the behaviors, the tools, you've gone through the content and really ingested it, really absorbed it, and made it your own? We call it the wealth quotient shift. And the shift that would happen is you would see this in your own life, because it's really a lifestyle change, right? You would shift from being reactive and ad hoc or marketing to being more proactive and systematic about, and we call it bespoke marketing, which would be a really structured way for understanding, accessing, engaging your future high net worth and ultra high net worth clients using proactive referrals, right? And specific referrals. So outward and migrating away from this mindset of outward in, which is, gosh, I got to get to them, and chasing people, to I'm really going to invest my time and effort in a few key relationships and driving and making sure that I'm harnessing all the social capital around them in a proactive way. And then the third is that really tactical, moving away from and never doing a generic referral and moving to specific introductions. Let's see. The 3 kind of marks around this, again, your most efficient growth is always going to come from your existing relational networks, right? And the sign that you've really internalized this is that you avoid ever asking, how do I get in front of that question? If you're asking that question, then it means you're still processing through it and working through it, right? But once you cross the chasm, you will catch yourself in asking that question. And then cultivating weekly habits of visualizing your key referral sources. So once you've identified them, really like it's a visualization process, just having them top of mind. When you have them top of mind, then you start to pay more attention, you invest more time. And when you do that, they generate more referrals. It's not rocket science, right? And it's about the methodology, habits, and tools for how you measure that. So we like to say that going through the wealth quotient methodology will generate whatever pipeline you have today. It'll generate 10 times the pipeline at a much higher probability of conversion for a tenth of the time. Right now, you have to invest and you have to do it, but it doesn't take a lot of time. In terms of the actual amount of time invested, it is a process. So, and then the other thing that we've seen with our methodology and sales professionals is that it really gives you the reins to control your pipeline. And if you can control your pipeline, as we all know as sales professionals, that's really one of the key things to control your life, because it's all about pipeline, right? And about the right type of pipeline and the right way to engage that pipeline. So changing your mindset and cultivating this kind of lifestyle of proactive referrals is really the key. And that's really what the program that we're launching with you guys with Luxury Real Estate is all about. And so there's 2 different programs. And actually, Megan, let me just pause for a second here and see if there's any because I'm getting ready now to shift to go through kind of talking about these 2 programs. But let me go ahead and pause and see if there's anybody that has a burning question, or they want to challenge something I said, or they want to drill in. And I'm glad to kind of engage a little bit. I know I'm shaking it up a little bit, but
yeah, good. So if anyone has a question, go ahead and pop it into the chat.
I do have a question, and I was talking with Megan a little bit. So I took all those modules that you're talking about on Bespoke and stuff like that. So that looked to be before COVID and before the big AI surge. So is that information relevant, or are we going to learn something different? Or I guess that's the question.
You took what modules before?
The health quotient training, I think it was.
Before COVID?
I mean, I just took it, but that looked to be recorded.
You just took it. Yeah. So good question, actually. I think, sorry, I misunderstood you, Elizabeth.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. It's okay. So, yes, we filmed the content before. Is it still valid after COVID? I mean, I probably could talk 3 hours on this, but the reality is the principles behind what we're doing on how to engage an ultra high net worth or high net worth individual or a billionaire, for example, are the same. And COVID didn't change that. So let me give you a story. We work with one of the top private jet manufacturers in the world. They only focus on billionaires. We were running this program during COVID. So it was only over Zoom. You couldn't use in-person meetings. By the way, a lot of people say, well, you can't do that. You can't use it over Zoom and virtually. It's always better, obviously, to have in-person meetings, but in this case, they couldn't. So my co-founder, who's one of our coaches, was on a call with the top salesperson, got on the call with him and said, he said, listen, I've drank the Kool-Aid on this process. I love it. And so my co-founder said, oh, that's great. So did you ask for some specific referrals, and then your hub, your existing client agreed to make those? And he said, no. He said, in fact, the gentleman I asked for the introduction from told me he's in a lawsuit with all the people I asked for the introduction. They were all general partners of the same fund. And so my partner said, well, gosh, well, then why was it great? And he said, well, I asked him for the introduction specifically, and he said, I can't make the introduction to those people because we're in a lawsuit with each other, but here are 3 other people I can make an introduction to. And he said he will never, moving forward in his life, ever not ask for a specific referral request. So to answer your question, the principles that are behind our methodology are focused on human nature, right? And psychology and epistemology, which is kind of a theological term for how we know things, right? So they do apply, and I will say that actually I think our methodology applies more because so many people are coming at the high net worth and ultra high net worth individuals digitally, physically. Everybody wants something from them, and so our methodology is based on the assumption that really there's two ways to really engage them: through their existing networks or referrals, which is why referrals are so important, or their passions, hobbies, and interests. And that hasn't changed. And that will never change, because that's about human nature. Because if you're a high net worth or ultra high net worth individual, and you have everyone, think about it. If you have everyone coming at you, how do you qualify people? How do you qualify someone? How do we all qualify? If somebody tries to connect with me on LinkedIn and I see that they're connected to Peter Thiel, who's the famous venture capitalist, I probably am going to accept that, even if I don't know them or know who they are. We use other people to qualify, and that's why referrals are one of the key ways. So does that make sense, Elizabeth?
That's great. Yeah, it does. So it sounds like it's still relevant. And then my second question would be, how has it changed?
Sure. Yeah. So Megan and Kate, you guys haven't had a chance to send it out yet, but I just wrote an article for Financial Advisor magazine on using Chat GPT and AI for referrals. So let me give you one quick way I think AI will impacts the wealth quotient process. One of the things that is hard is, how do you scale a referral process? Now, the truth is, everyone on this call, we're just trying to get you to start asking for specific referrals, and we're not trying to get you guys hundreds of clients. We're trying to get you a smaller group of really great clients over the course of a year, right? But AI is going to allow people to get more information quicker. So if you think about step 4 in our methodology, which is building a profile around someone, right? And then how about actually drafting a script to ask for a referral? And in that article, I actually give a case study, an example of using AI to actually help you craft how to ask for the referral, but you have to tell it to do it in a specific way, right? So that would be that's a perfect example of one of the monthly coaching calls that we would do. For example, I would talk about how can we leverage AI, but it's just a tool. So to be clear, AI is just a tool. It will help accelerate, scale, or optimize, but fundamentally, we're talking about trust, which is everyone on this call knows because they built their business on this. It's about trust, relationships, and referrals, right? And so AI can help you optimize some of the things we're showing you, but it never will, in my opinion, will never fundamentally change that two lenses by which this individual views the world and qualifies the world. Because that's about human nature. But that's a great question. And
thank you. That makes sense.
Thank you for asking that, Elizabeth. So does anyone else want to jump in and ask a question? Those are two really good ones, by the way. And Elizabeth has been through, she's been going through the content. So so I appreciated that question. Anyone else? No? Okay. All right. So then what we've done with Megan and Kate, we pulled back and said, all right, based on our content and the format, what should we offer? And so we came up with 2 key programs that we're offering. And both programs give you access to the online university and all of our content library. The difference is, one is just access to the content, and the other one involves a monthly coaching call. But the online content library, it has kind of 3 buckets, if you will. There's what we call the boot camp, which is really about the mindset, and its content. It's filmed in front of a live audience. Half of it is in front of one group. The other half is in front of a mixed group of people that are yacht brokers, higher ed fundraisers, private bankers. It's a really diverse room, but it's really focused more on the mindset and giving you an overview of the methodology. The second key component is the actual methodology courses and modules, and walking through specifically how to use the tools to scale referrals and ask for specific referrals. And then the last is a resources module, where we have aggregated interviews and podcasts. I've been interviews with John Thiel, is the former head of Merrill Lynch, or Nicole Ogie, who used to be the CMO at Douglas Elliman, about luxury. So across luxury real estate, nonprofit, higher ed, we've aggregated all this content about the high net worth and ultra high net worth market. And so these are what the modules look like when you log into your account. We call it the mindset shift, but it's also called the boot camp in each one of these. This is the sub modules that you would get access to in the boot camp. We talk about the ultra high net worth. We give you a market overview. We talk about the trends that are impacting them. We talk about their anatomy, their different assets, how they think, how they invest, how they spend. And then we give you some strategic foundations around mistakes. And that's all in the boot camp. Within each one of the sub courses for the methodology, we walk you through specific tactical steps. We walk you through the tools. So in this case, for example, step one, it's about how do you identify your hubs. We walk you through how to do that, looking at your existing book of business. And it's a really, really tactical step-by-step process, right? So with each tool, and this is an example of the tool that we walk you through on how to pick your best referral sources. This is the second step. And these are the type of profile sheets that we walk you through how to do, financially qualify, building that social graph around an individual. Step 3 is asking for the introduction. In step 3, we call it the ask for the intro worksheet, but we also call it a mini strategic plan for how to engage your key referral source or client and how to specifically ask for that introduction. And the way to do it, who you're going to ask for. So this one page tool you would have for each one of your referral sources. And these things do not take a long time, but you do need to invest the time to do it. But if you do it and if you go through and you follow the steps, it will drive new referrals in the right way. So the other interesting thing in step 3 that we have is a sample narrative toolkit. So for example, if you're asking for a referral and everyone you're asking for a referral to is on the same board, then we give you a sample sentence. Well, here's how you might want to ask for that question. Wonder if they're all in the same role. Wonder if they're in the same geography. So we're giving you these sample narratives that you can use as foundation for building and crafting your own. I mean, you have to make it your own, right? But we help you along the way. So step 4 on how to actually build a dossier and a prospect intelligence. We give you a sample profile and give you potential sources on how to do that. And then step 5 is really focused on how do you ask great questions and the discipline and skills around when you walk into that room with a prospect and creating the right mindset. Frankly, a lot of times you may not ask those questions, but being prepared by asking questions. And by the way, this is not selling. This is building relationships. Now, I get it. I know we're all selling all the time, but this actually truncates the sales process and accelerates and unlocks chemistry and trust. It's just asking great questions. We all know it, but this gives you a disciplined approach and tool to doing that. And then also literally going through this tool and process, it culminates in what are the 5 questions you're going to ask when you walk in that are based on the passions, hobbies, and interests of that prospect that have nothing to do with what you want to sell or what you're trying to get across your product, your platform, or your cause, right? So it's a great mindset. And it's also a mindset that's reinforced by saying that you're really going to serve that prospect. And maybe that prospect is not going to become a client, and that's okay too, but they could become a referral source, right? So it's always about running this process. We also have a section where we've aggregated how to use all the tools and in case studies. So we literally, for example, walk you through. Kathy Hughes is a billionaire entrepreneur. And so we walk you through the process of what would we say if we were in a meet, if we've gotten a referral to her, right? We've gotten to her the right way. what would we say based on her passions and hobbies and interests? What are the questions we would ask? So we literally give you that tactical kind of optics and viewpoint of what we would say and what we would do. And then we've aggregated all of the interviews, webinars, and podcasts. Because of WealthX and WealthQuotient, I speak a lot and I lecture a lot. And so we're putting all that content and information in here for you, interviews. And the other thing that's interesting about this is it's really cross industry. So it's financial services, luxury, and nonprofits, which are a big key, those three sectors, because you can learn, there's things to learn from each of them, and cross-pollination is really powerful. So the first program that we've launched, we're calling it the High Net Worth Introduction Program. And for this program, you get unlimited access to all the content that's available in the library, and anything that we'll add over the course of the year, and anything that we change. The methodology, the tools, all of those things are available within it. And that offering is $995. And I think that Megan and Kate have already started to send that out to you guys, but that's what's in it. And it's also the content's available from a mobile perspective. So if you're working out or in the car, you can listen to the content as well. You can download we use Kajabi as our e-learning platform. You can download the app and access all the content on the go on your phone as well. So that's the first package that we're offering. The second one, and really, again, this is the first time we've done this, is to offer a certification program. So we're calling it the Ultra High Net Worth Mastermind Certification. It also gives you unlimited access to all the content library and all the information in there, all the tools, everything. But we're supplementing that with a monthly coaching call. I will be running the coaching call, so it'll be me doing it. And the point of those calls is, one, access to me, but two, for anyone that feels like they want to have greater accountability and have more peer-to-peer sharing and learning. The other thing that happens is you will be getting a certification as well through that program. So we're very excited. It's the first time we've done this. And that certification, obviously, because of our brand and who we are, is known across different industries and groups, because they're our clients, and so they know what we're doing. So it's an interesting feature to have for someone that is recognized across some of the top brands in the world. And then we'll have the ability to have ongoing digital conversation in this group. And we haven't decided yet whether we'll use Teams or we'll use our own internal, but we'll figure that out as well based on. The other thing I wanted to say, which is really interesting, is that the Ultra High Net Worth Certification Program, each one of these monthly coaching calls where we go through it, we'll be recording those sessions, and they will then be added to the library as a module. So if you miss it, you'll be able to go back. But also if you were attending and needed to go back because there was something interesting. So we're creating this kind of reservoir of knowledge or peer-to-peer learning that will be just for this group. Within the broader library, content library. The agenda for these calls that we'll have, we'll start out with something where we're looking at current events through the lens of wealth, right? So one great example is if on our next call, this may be something I bring up, but the Wall Street Journal did an amazing article about how Arnaud, who's, as you guys know, luxury is kind of a supplanted technology in the terms of the microcosm around billionaires ranking in industries, right? So Arnaud's become one of the wealthiest men in the world. He runs LVMH, but there was a fascinating article about how he deals with his children at the dinner table, for example. And so there's things like that or if my old company WealthX comes out with a new wealth report, these will all be things that we would cover on the call. I want to create space for this group to talk about challenges they're having, so people can bring up challenges they're having, and maybe we can, as a group or me, have some insight and help people get through that. Or if they have a pitch or listing coming up, we'll go through some content and curriculum that maps to the WealthQuotient methodology, and then we'll have some case studies as well. So that's kind of the agenda. If I think about over the course of a year or 12-month period, what the type of curriculum that we'll be covering on the coaching calls, we'll go through mistakes. it'll map to our methodology. So it'll be a greater interaction around things that you've gone through in the library, hopefully first, or some of the tools. You can ask how to better use them, or we can review them together. We can go through case studies. There's also things like how do you set up a customer survey as a way of laying the foundation for referrals. We'll cover things like AI, like Elizabeth was talking about. So we'll talk about tools and how those things can help accelerate, and so forth. Any articles that I've written that have been published. So this is a sample of what over the course of a year, the curriculum for the coaching call, the content piece at least, would look like. So this, going to Elizabeth's question, this was the article that I just wrote published in Inman. Megan, I didn't have a chance to send it to you guys, but it just got published last week. So, and it was about, it was about how AI is going to impact luxury real estate and what I see coming down the pipe in terms of, so this is certainly some of the things that we will cover in our coaching call. And then this type of content will be added to the content library, right? So, so I thought I would end with, giving you kind of optics or a sense for what those coaching calls are like. I would give you 2 case study examples as the kind of things that I would like to engage with that group with, and hopefully that people will bring. But these are both examples from coaching. So of 2 different, both examples are 2 different top performing agents who I was coaching. One came to me and said they were on their way. They had a billionaire listing pitch, and they said, by the way, I really find that it's interesting. A lot of the top performers I find are people that also have the attitude of give me everything you can, right? I mean, they're not, I got it covered. Is there anything? And so this agent in particular was going into a listing. It was one of the wealthiest billionaires in Manhattan. And she called me and said, is there anything else? Is there anything else you can help me with? Is there anything, she was totally humble about the whole thing. And I said, well, is there any connection you have outside? Are any of your existing clients connected to this individual? And now, why was I doing that? Because we all know that if you can create that referral, you increase your probability by 400 to 500%, right? So automatically. She said, actually, there is. She said, one of my top clients knows the person well. I said, okay, well, here's what you're going to do. I want you to call your client and get permission, ask permission to mention their name in the conversation with the prospect that you have for the listing. So she said, fine, I'll do that. 2 or 3, I think it was 3 days later, she called me in the morning. She said, David, I got to tell you what happened. So I called my client who I'm really close to, and I said, listen, would you be okay if I mentioned the fact that you're my client in this? Getting permission, by the way, was very important. If she had just dropped it, it would create a different dynamic with her client, by the way. And she called him and she said, absolutely, you can mention we're really good friends. And by the way, he told her my wife was suffering from cancer, and this individual called while he was traveling around the world. He actually had called every other week just to check in and make sure that everything was okay. And she said, wow, I had no idea that you guys were that close. And so he said, yeah, when you go in there, feel free to mention that you work with me. And so when she walked into that room, the first thing she did was not talk about like the market rates and the data. She talked about the fact that this individual had said hello and how amazing it was that what he did. So she said it completely. Now, do you still have to have all the data and everything else? Absolutely. And her presentation was great, and she knows the market, but people buy the why, not the what, right? The data and the rest is a rational justification for working with someone, but you need to be able to do your job, but that's table stakes. So completely changed the dynamic. She said by the time they left, they were hugging, right? So that's one example. The second is, and this goes back to the depositioning. I was coaching an agent, and he called me and he said, David, you'd be really proud. I was at a conference, and it was, I think, of the CEO of Peloton, and he had helped the COO or the daughter of the CEO, I can't remember, buy a house out in the Hamptons. And so he said, David, I waited in line. I got up to this guy at the conference, and I kind of skillfully slipped into the conversation that I had helped his daughter sell a house. I think it was his daughter. And he said to me, that is amazing. Thank you for helping her do that. Here's the number of my two other agents I use. Why don't you call them? And he said, wasn't that great? And I said, no, it's horrible, right? He completely depositioned himself. He could have easily asked for a referral and met the guy for coffee somewhere and completely created a different atmosphere, right? And so sometimes not approaching a prospect is the most strategic thing that you can do. And going back, right? So, but in asking that question, well, how can we create coincidences by connecting the dots, right? Anyway, so these are the type of topics and case studies we will cover in the coaching segment. And this is, we're calling it the Ultra High Net Worth Mastermind Certification course. And because we're offering more, it is more. So it's $2,495. But it's access to all the online content that I just showed you in the library, and will include access to me in this monthly coaching call, where we'll go through challenges, content, current events, and case studies. And I think it'll be a lot of fun and a lot of engagement, and a lot of peer-to-peer discussions. The other thing, these are the type of things we're going to cover on the coaching call, is how do you better position yourself to be an advisor to the high net worth and ultra high net worth? How can you even just position yourself to talk about their balance sheet and what you're doing as a part of their broader balance sheet? Because that's how do they view the world, and how can you fit in it, right? What's going on in their world? What are the trends and things that are impacting them? What are the way they see the world, as one example, right? Now, I told Megan that this is a really interesting, exciting kind of, and you guys are kind of hearing it first, but my co-founder and I at WealthQuotient, with some other people, launched a separate company called the Ultra High Net Worth Symposium. You may or may not have heard of it, but it's a conference platform where we had the top executives in the world come to talk about how do you engage this audience. But we now are tucking that entire company and platform now underneath WealthQuotient. Why does that matter to you? That there's incredible content from this platform. We've done 2 conferences so far virtually. All that content now is going to be available in the Ultra High Net Worth certification program. So what's the content like? For example, the first one was, how do you effectively engage this audience? And the people that we have on the panels and then the conference, in this virtual conference, are people like Pauline Brown, who's the former chairman of LVMH and Vuitton. We have the head of Bugatti, the head of VistaJet, NetJets, Scott Harrison, who's the founder of Charity Water, one of the biggest, most successful charities in the world. Sarah Acer used to run the billionaire strategy for Global Citizen, which is the largest kind of concert they have in the world. She now actually works with the Global Fund, the biggest nonprofit in the world. So we have really the top people in the world from the top brands talking about their challenges and candid discussions about how do you engage this audience. So there's 2 conferences. The first one's about effectively engaging this audience. The second one's about next generation wealth and how you deal with it. And we even have a lot of ultra high net worth and high net worth individuals on panels as well talking. So all that content is now going to also be available in the Ultra High Net Worth Mastermind course. Now, because everybody, I did want to reward everyone who was on this call, because you guys are kind of first responders, if you will. And so I wanted to offer this bonus. So for the first 10 that sign up, if you are going to sign up for the high net worth, I will give you access to all that symposium content, those 2 conferences, which was only going to be for the ultra high net worth mastermind class. And if you're signing up for the ultra high net worth class, then we'll give you, because I'm speaking at the fall event, we'll give you an in-person kind of workshop just for a smaller group, where we can go through, and you're more than welcome to tell me what you want. I would suggest we do it on step 3 about asking for the introduction and working through that. We could always change it. So wanted to make those 2 bonus offerings for everyone, since you were so great to show up on this call. And that's it. I think, Megan, we can open it up for questions. Hopefully that was helpful to everyone.
Yeah, of course. So I actually popped the all of those critical links into the chat for anybody who needs to go directly to that information too. So why don't we actually open it up for questions at this point? If you have a question, feel free to put it into the chat, and what we will do is just call on you, and then you can speak up. I think you maybe did a really good job and nobody has any questions at all, David.
Yeah, listen, I'll take silence as mesmerizing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. We'll give it another minute here and just see if there's anybody who might have a question. So like I said, I put those links into the chat. We have the 2 links for each of the different programs, and then also the link to the registration information, the website for our fall conference in Park City. Like David said, we have special things offered for that conference, but David is going to be speaking to the general conference. So you will get a lot of that meat at the conference if you sign up. So
The only thing,
go ahead. Sorry.
The only thing I would add is, I was talking the other day. I live out in Sag Harbor in the Hamptons, so there's a lot of agents, and so they're around, and so I always have conversations with them at parties and whatnot. But I was talking to this one gentleman. I think he's been an agent for 15 years, and he said, I know there are things that I should be doing that I'm not. He's like, I know that there are things that could change, could have changed my trajectory that I just don't know. And so I think those are the things we're trying to equip you with. And these are I love the phrase that says the big doors swing on small hinges. And so there are things that, from a mindset perspective, that I think can really change the trajectory. I mean, we have a client who said if he had been doing this 10 years ago, his life would be different, right? And so it's just applying these principles. There's principles of mindset and methodology. And then also, how do you measure success, and thinking through new things. So, and the other thing I forgot to mention is that we have a book, and so free copy of the book will be included as well, ebook as well.
Awesome. Well, I think for anyone who is on the call, we will follow up with an email just so that you have some directives straight in your email. But also I want to thank everyone. Thank you, David, so much. Can't believe we're going to be doing this in person in just a few short months. So we're looking forward to that. And I want to thank everyone for being here today. And just in case you came in late, or if you had to leave early or something, we do have a recording that we will place in the luxury lounge. Thank you all and have a great day.
Great. And thanks again for the question, Elizabeth. Appreciate that.
Thanks, everybody.